My name is Vanessa Chen, and I've worked in IT security at Meridian Solutions for 8 years. 8 years of watching people do incredibly stupid things with technology they don't understand. But what happened with my badge? That was a new level of bold. It started on a Tuesday morning when I swiped into the building and the security system beeped twice instead of once. I paused at the turnstile, frowning at the little green light that seemed to flicker just a bit longer than usual. The guard, Marcus, gave me a friendly nod and I moved on, but something felt off. In my line of work, you learn to trust those little tingles of wrongness. I should mention that Meridian Solutions isn't just any company. We're a cybersecurity firm that handles sensitive data for financial institutions. Which means our internal security is supposed to be bulletproof. My badge doesn't just open doors, it tracks every entry, every floor I visit, every secure room I access. And I have what's called Tier 4 clearance, which means I can go just about anywhere except the executive suite and the data center vault. The second weird thing happened that afternoon. I got an automated email from HR saying I'd been marked tardy that morning. Tardy. I'd swiped in at 7:28 a.m., same as always. I fired off a quick response explaining the error, then went back to reviewing our quarterly security audit. But that little ping of wrongness got louder. By Wednesday, I knew something was seriously wrong. My access logs showed me entering the building at 7:28 a.m. on Tuesday, but also at 7:43 a.m. 15 minutes later. Same day, same badge, 2 different entry times. That's not a glitch, that's a duplicate credential. Someone had cloned my badge. I sat at my desk, staring at the access logs, feeling my face go hot. In cybersecurity, this is basically a declaration of war. Someone didn't just steal from me, they made me complicit in whatever they were planning. They made me the security hole. I didn't panic. Panic is for people who don't have a plan. Instead, I did what I do best. I started hunting. First, I pulled up the camera feeds for Tuesday morning. There I was at 7:28, black coffee in hand, nodding at Marcus. Then I fast-forwarded. At 7:43, a blonde woman in a navy blazer swiped a badge, my badge, and walked right through. The angle wasn't perfect, but I could see enough. Olivia Brennan. Senior Vice President of Client Relations. Olivia Brennan, who had been climbing the corporate ladder like it was a race to the death. Olivia, who'd gotten 3 people in accounting fired last quarter for performance issues that later turned out to be fabricated. Olivia, who smiled like a shark and treated anyone below director level like they were furniture. I watched her swipe my cloned badge again and again, her face perfectly calm, perfectly entitled. Like she owned the place. Like she owned me. I dug deeper. Over the next 2 days, I tracked every instance of my badge being used when I wasn't using it. Olivia had been busy. She'd accessed the 7th floor R&D lab at 9 p.m. on Monday. She'd entered the records room on the 4th floor during lunch on Wednesday. And most interesting, she'd tried to access the executive suite at 6 a.m. on Thursday. That one had failed, my clearance wasn't high enough. But she'd tried. The question was why. What was Olivia Brennan looking for? I pulled up her company profile. Stanford MBA, 15 years at 2 previous firms, both competitors. Hired 18 months ago with a compensation package that raised eyebrows even in the executive ranks. Her job was to land big clients and keep them happy. She was good at it. Too good, some whispered. Clients loved her. The board loved her. She had the kind of corporate immunity that comes from making people very, very rich. Friday afternoon, I made a decision. I could go to HR, but Olivia had HR in her pocket. The director of HR reported to her on the org chart. I could go to IT, but they'd want to loop in management, and management meant Olivia's people. I needed something bigger. Something she couldn't talk her way out of. I needed to catch her in the act, somewhere she absolutely should not be, doing something she absolutely should not do. I spent the weekend preparing. I pulled every access log, every camera feed, every digital footprint of my cloned badge. Then I did something that would either save my career or end it. I called my old mentor, Richard Yates. Richard had been the CIO at Meridian before he moved to the board of directors 3 years ago. We'd stayed in touch. He'd been the one to fast-track my security clearance, to push me into roles I didn't think I was ready for. He trusted my judgment. More importantly, he hated corruption. "Vanessa," his voice was warm on the phone, "it's been too long. What's going on?" I told him everything. The cloned badge, the access logs, Olivia's pattern of behavior. He was quiet for a long moment. "You're sure about this?" he finally asked. "I have evidence for every access. Camera feeds, timestamps, everything." "And you think she's going to make another move?" "I know she is. She tried to access the executive suite once. She'll try again. Whatever she's looking for, it's up there." Richard was quiet again, thinking. "Then, the CEO is out of town until Tuesday. His office will be empty Monday morning. If she's planning something, then Monday morning is when she'll do it," I finished. "I'll make some calls," Richard said. "Be ready." Monday morning, I arrived at 6 a.m. My real badge, my real credentials. I'd disabled the cloned badge in the system, but left it active in the logs so Olivia wouldn't know. If she swiped it, it would fail, but she'd see normal activity up until that moment. I took the elevator to the 9th floor, the executive suite. Richard had arranged for me to have temporary Tier 5 access. Just for today. Just for this. The CEO's office was at the end of a long hallway, all glass walls and expensive art. I let myself into the conference room next door and waited. The camera feeds were pulled up on my laptop. I watched the lobby. I watched the elevators. At 6:37 a.m., Olivia entered the building. She was dressed for success, heels clicking confidently across the marble floor. She went to the elevator, pressed the button for the 9th floor. My heart hammered. This was it. This was the moment where I proved I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't making this up, that I was right to trust my instincts. The elevator doors opened on the 9th floor. Olivia stepped out, looking around carefully. The executive suite was deserted this early. She walked down the hallway, pulling something from her purse. My cloned badge. She reached the CEO's office and swiped the badge on the reader. Nothing. She swiped again, frowning. Still nothing. I'd disabled it perfectly. I watched her face change, watched the calculation happening behind her eyes. Then she did something that made my blood run cold. She pulled out a lockpick set. She was actually going to break in. She was going to physically break into the CEO's office. It took her 45 seconds to pick the lock. I had to admire the skill, even as I was documenting every second of it on camera. She slipped inside and went straight to the CEO's desk. She jiggled the mouse to wake the computer, then pulled out a USB drive. That's when I walked in. "Looking for something?" I asked. Olivia spun around, her face going through a rapid series of expressions, shock, fear, then settling on cold anger. "Vanessa. What are you doing here?" "I work here," I said calmly. "The question is, what are you doing here? And more specifically, what are you doing with my security badge?" Her hand moved subtly toward her purse. The cloned badge. But I saw the calculation in her eyes: deny, deflect, dominate. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice sharp. "I have every right to be in this office. I'm a senior vice president." "Really? Then why did you pick the lock? Why are you using a cloned copy of my badge to access areas you're not authorized for? Why are you trying to plug that USB drive into the CEO's computer?" Her face paled. "You can't prove any of that." Actually, I pulled out my phone, showing her the video I'd just recorded. "I can. I have 2 weeks of access logs showing my badge being used when I was somewhere else." I have camera footage of you using it. And I have you, right now, breaking and entering with what I'm guessing is either malware or a data theft device. She looked at me like I was an insect that had learned to talk. Like the natural order of things had somehow inverted. You have no idea who you're messing with, Olivia said, her voice dropping to something dangerous. I have friends at the highest levels of this company. The board loves me. Our biggest clients demand to work with me personally. You're nobody. You're IT. You think anyone's going to believe you over me? I think, I said carefully, that you're right. Which is why I didn't go to HR or management or anyone in your pocket. The door opened behind me. Richard Yates walked in, followed by two people I recognized immediately, Catherine Morris, our CEO, and James Park, the head of our board's audit committee. They'd been watching from the conference room the whole time. Hello, Olivia, Catherine said, her voice like ice. I got back from Singapore early. Richard called me with some concerning allegations. I thought they deserved my immediate attention. Olivia's face went slack. She looked from Catherine to Richard to James to me, and I watched her realize that she'd been cornered. Outplayed. Caught in a trap she never saw coming. This is a misunderstanding, she started, but James held up a hand. We've seen the footage, he said. We've reviewed the access logs. We've examined the USB drive. He held it up, the one she'd dropped when we walked in. Industrial espionage is a federal crime, Ms. Brennan. Particularly when it involves stealing client data to sell to competitors. Catherine pulled out her phone. I've already contacted the FBI's Cybercrimes Division. They'll want to talk to you. But first, I need your badge. Your real badge. Olivia just stood there, frozen, as everything she'd built crumbled around her. All that climbing, all that manipulation, all that casual cruelty to people she thought were beneath her. Gone in a morning. Vanessa, Catherine turned to me, thank you. If you hadn't caught this, we'd have lost everything. Client trust, proprietary data, maybe the company itself. I just nodded. I didn't need gratitude. I just needed to know that the system worked, that you couldn't cheat your way to the top and destroy people on the way up without consequences. Security was already coming down the hall. 2 guards, walking with purpose. Olivia looked at them, then back at me. For just a second, I saw real fear in her eyes. Not fear of consequences. Fear that she'd been beaten by someone she'd never even considered a threat. How, she whispered. How did you know? I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Because you made the same mistake everyone like you makes. You thought being powerful meant you were smart. You thought having important friends meant you were untouchable. And you thought that people like me, people you don't bother learning the names of, don't matter. I stepped aside as security reached for her arms. You should have paid attention to who had access to the cameras. Who understood the security systems? Who knew exactly how to document every single crime you committed? The last thing I saw before I walked out was her face, finally understanding that she hadn't just been caught, she'd been hunted, tracked, and trapped by someone she'd never seen coming. I closed my laptop and headed for the elevator, leaving Olivia Brennan to explain to the FBI why she'd cloned an IT security specialist's badge to commit corporate espionage. The elevator doors closed on the sound of her trying to explain, trying to justify, trying to make them understand that this was all some terrible mistake. But I knew the truth. The only mistake was hers.